When you think of Hollywood action stars, a few names instantly pop into your head: Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But there's one man who has carved out his own lane, built his own myth, and created a character so iconic that audiences all around the world can hear the word family without instantly thinking of him. That man is Vin Diesel. He's more than just Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious. He's an actor, producer, gamer, singer, stuntman, and cultural icon who's managed to reinvent himself again and again. And the truth is, his real-life story might be even more unbelievable than the blockbusters he headlines. Let us dive into the top 10 most fascinating facts about Vin Diesel that prove he is more than just muscle and cars. Story 10. His real name isn't Vin Diesel. Before the fame, before the big paychecks, before the roaring engines and exploding box offices, he was just Mark Sinclair. That right, Vin Diesel's real name doesn't even sound remotely like the guy we've come to know. Born on July 18, 1967, in Alameda County, California, Diesel was raised in New York City by his mother, Delora Shirlene Vincent, an astrologer. He never knew his biological father and has always spoken about how that missing piece of his identity shaped his drive. Growing up, he didn't come from money, didn't have a glamorous Hollywood childhood, and certainly didn't look like someone destined for superstardom. The name Vin Diesel didn't come until later, when he was hustling to make ends meet as a nightclub bouncer in New York. He was a young guy with a muscular build, shaved head, and a no-nonsense attitude. If you're standing at the door of a rough club in the city, you need a name that projects strength, confidence, and intimidation. Mark Sinclair wasn't cutting it, so he pulled inspiration from two sources. Vin came from his stepfather's last name, Vincent, and Diesel was a nickname friends gave him because of his endless energy and aggressive, engine-like personality. Together, it became Vin Diesel, and the rest is history. But this isn't just a cool stage name. The transformation from Mark Sinclair to Vin Diesel represented a full rebranding of himself. He went from being a struggling New York kid with dreams of acting to creating a persona that Hollywood couldn't ignore. This new identity was like armor: tough, industrial, unbreakable. Imagine being a casting director in the 90s. Are you more likely to remember Mark Sinclair or Vin Diesel? Exactly. It was marketing genius before he even knew how big his career would become. This name also reflects something deeply American. In the U.S., reinvention is part of the culture. From musicians like Bob Dylan to wrestlers turned actors like The Rock, people who find success often do so by rebranding. Diesel was ahead of the curve, crafting a name that fit perfectly with the tough guy archetype. And it worked. Within a decade, Vin Diesel wasn't just a name, it was a global brand. To put this in perspective, think of how many actors struggle for years to get remembered. Diesel's calculated decision to adopt a name that sounded larger than life gave him a head start. That one choice, born out of bouncing at clubs in New York, helped shape the legend we know today. Number 9. He started acting at just 7 years old. Here is a surprising twist. While Vin Diesel is often portrayed as the ultimate tough guy who came up through grit and street smarts, he actually started his acting career as a child. At just 7 years old, he and some neighborhood friends broke into a New York theater with the intent of vandalizing it. They didn't get far before they were caught, but instead of calling the cops, the theater's artistic director handed them scripts and offered them roles in an upcoming play. That strange, almost cinematic twist of fate set Diesel on the path toward acting. Imagine that. A 7-year-old kid, caught trying to trash a stage, ends up being told, "If you want to be here, you have to act." That's not only ironic, but almost prophetic. Diesel stuck with the company for years, performing in children's theater productions and learning the discipline of acting. He later attended Hunter College in New York, where he studied English and writing, further sharpening his skills as both a storyteller and performer. But the road wasn't easy. He wasn't the classic Hollywood look. Casting directors didn't know what to do with him. Was he African American, Italian, Latino? Diesel himself has always kept his ethnicity somewhat mysterious, saying only that he's a person of color and preferring to leave it ambiguous. In the early days of Hollywood, that ambiguity worked against him. He didn't fit neatly into casting boxes. As a result, he was rejected constantly. Instead of quitting, Diesel turned to his own resourcefulness. He began writing and producing his own projects. In 1995, he created a short film called Multifacial, which told the story of a multiracial actor struggling to find roles, a direct reflection of his own experiences. He wrote, directed, produced, and starred in it, scraping together money to make it happen. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and caught the attention of Steven Spielberg. Yes, that Spielberg. The legendary director was so impressed that he wrote a part specifically for Diesel in Saving Private Ryan, 1998. That small but memorable role put him on Hollywood's radar in a way he had never been before. But think about the chain of events. If 7-year-old Mark Sinclair hadn't been caught sneaking into that theater, he might never have acted. Without acting, there's no multifacial. Without multifacial, Spielberg never notices him. Without Spielberg, there's no Saving Private Ryan. And without that film, Diesel might never have gotten Pitch Black, which then led to The Fast and the Furious. That entire billion-dollar franchise traces back to a mischievous kid breaking into a theater. Life works in mysterious ways, and Diesel's journey proves how even accidents can lead to destiny. It's also worth noting how uniquely American this story feels. The idea that a troubled kid from New York could stumble into acting, build his own projects, and hustle his way into one of the biggest film franchises in history. It's the classic underdog tale. In many ways, Diesel is living proof of the American dream: reinvention, hard work, and seizing opportunity when it presents itself. And if you look closer, that early experience shaped his philosophy. Diesel has always emphasized loyalty, brotherhood, and creating your own opportunities. Those aren't just themes in Fast and Furious, they're his lived reality. From a childhood moment of near trouble, he found his calling, and he's been chasing it ever since. Figure 8. He was once so broke. He had to sleep on a couch while chasing his dream. It's easy to look at Vin Diesel now. Global superstar, multi-million-dollar paychecks, international recognition, and forget that his path was anything but guaranteed. In fact, there was a time when Diesel was so broke, he was sleeping on couches, eating cheap takeout, and wondering if he had made a huge mistake chasing Hollywood dreams. This is the part of his story that almost feels like a movie in itself, the struggling actor trying to break through against impossible odds. After his early theater work and college studies, Diesel knew he wanted more. He wanted Hollywood. But Hollywood didn't want him, or at least it didn't know how to use him. As mentioned before, his ambiguous ethnicity made casting directors nervous. He was constantly told he was too different or too unique. That S code for, "we don't know what box to put you in." For a while, it looked like he might spend his life hustling odd jobs and doing off-Broadway plays for little pay. During these years, Diesel scraped by. He worked as a telemarketer selling light bulbs, did construction jobs, and, of course, bounced at clubs to pay rent. But even then, he kept one eye fixed on his bigger dream. He poured every extra dollar into making films, his own films. That's how Multifacial came about. But producing Multifacial wasn't easy. He had to max out credit cards, borrow equipment, and lean on friends. And once it was done, he had no guarantee it would even be seen. Imagine making this enormous sacrifice and not knowing if the world will care. After the small success of Multifacial, he doubled down. His next project was a feature-length indie film called Strays, 1997, which he wrote, directed, produced, and starred in. The movie was about an urban young man questioning his violent lifestyle and looking for something more meaningful. It was gritty, raw, and obviously personal. But getting it made pushed Diesel to the edge financially. He was broke, living on borrowed couches, often wondering if he'd ever make it out. The turning point, as history shows, came when Steven Spielberg saw multifacial and cast Diesel in Saving Private Ryan. But here's what most people forget. Spielberg didn't owe Diesel anything. There was no reason he had to cast him. It was Diesel's persistence, his sheer force of will, that made that short film exist in the first place. And that's what got Spielberg's attention. If Diesel had given up during those couch surfing days, the opportunity never would have happened. This fact shows something profound about the man. Vin Diesel isn't just about luck, he's about resilience. Every Hollywood actor faces rejection, but Diesel's story is proof that resilience separates those who quit from those who eventually succeed. Think of all the iconic movie stars whose careers almost didn't happen. Harrison Ford was a carpenter before George Lucas took a chance on him. Sylvester Stallone was broke before Rocky. Diesel is part of that lineage, the American underdog who refuses to take no for an answer. And if you look at how he carries himself now, you can still see the echoes of that time. He often talks about gratitude, about how important it is to remember where you came from. You can sense that those broke years, those nights on couches, shaped the humility under the bravado. Because even though Vin Diesel today has luxury cars, mansions, and blockbuster deals, deep down he remembers being Mark Sinclair, a broke kid in New York, hustling for a shot. It also explains why he often goes out of his way to give back to fans and newcomers in the industry. He knows what it feels like to be overlooked. He knows what it means to be broke and doubting yourself. That lived experience gives him a different kind of authenticity. When Vin Diesel tells you to believe in yourself, it doesn't sound like empty Hollywood talk. It sounds like survival wisdom. So the next time you see him speeding across the screen in a billion-dollar franchise, remember that it all began with a young man sleeping on borrowed couches, praying his short film would get noticed. Sometimes the road to success really is just as wild as the movies. Rutger 7. He's a hardcore gamer who helped bring Dungeons & Dragons to Hollywood. When most people think of Vin Diesel, they imagine muscle cars, explosions, and gravelly one-liners. But here is a side of him that surprises nearly everyone. Vin Diesel is a massive nerd. Specifically, he's a lifelong fan of Dungeons & Dragons. Yes, the same tabletop role-playing game that kids in the 70s and 80s were teased for playing in their basements. Diesel didn't just dabble in it, he's been obsessed for decades. Diesel has openly talked about how Dungeons & Dragons shaped his imagination and storytelling skills. While other kids were out doing sports, Diesel was rolling dice, inventing characters, and going on epic fantasy quests with his friends. He even wrote the foreword to a Dungeons & Dragons guidebook called 30 Years of Adventure, where he revealed his favorite character, a half-drow ranger named Melkor. He has also admitted to playing campaigns for years, sometimes even between movie shoots. Why does this matter? Because it shows a completely different dimension to Diesel's persona. He's not just about tough guy energy. He's about imagination, creativity, and embracing the nerd within. And in many ways, this hobby directly influenced his Hollywood career. The ability to create characters, think in terms of epic story arcs, and immerse himself in fantasy worlds. All of that fed into his skills as an actor and producer. Think about Pitch Black, 2000, the sci-fi thriller that first established him as a leading man. His character, Riddick, is basically like something out of a role-playing game. A mysterious anti-hero with special abilities, a dark backstory, and a survivalist's cunning. That whole franchise, The Chronicles of Riddick, feels like it was born out of a D&D campaign. And that's no accident. Diesel A.S. love of gaming gave him the mindset to create characters that feel larger than life, but still grounded in storytelling logic. But Diesel didn't just keep his nerdiness to himself. He also helped bring geek culture into Hollywood in a way that mainstream audiences could appreciate. Before nerd culture went mainstream, before Marvel dominated the box office, before Comic-Con was a celebrity hotspot, Diesel was proudly talking about Dungeons and Dragons. He didn't hide it, he celebrated it. That authenticity endeared him to fans who also grew up playing games and reading fantasy novels but never saw someone like Diesel embrace it so publicly. In fact, Diesel's passion for gaming goes beyond D&D. He founded a video game company called Tygon Studios in the early 2000s, which developed games tied to his Riddick character. Unlike many celebrity-backed game projects, Diesel was actually hands-on. He provided creative input, voice acting, and world-building ideas. The games, especially The Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, 2004, received critical acclaim and are still considered some of the best movie-to-game adaptations ever made. That S significant because it shows Diesel isn't just cashing in. He's genuinely invested in gaming as an art form. When most Hollywood stars treat video games as an afterthought, Diesel treats them with respect. That's part of why his fan base is so devoted. He connects with people not just as an action hero but as a fellow gamer who gets it. And let's be real, it's fun to imagine Vin Diesel, the guy who plays Dominic Toretto, sitting around a table with dice, snacks, and a group of friends, role-playing as a half-drow ranger. It humanizes him. It makes him relatable in a way few action stars are, because at the end of the day, he's not just a Hollywood tough guy, he's a storyteller, a dreamer, and yes, a gamer. Buster 6. He once turned down a huge paycheck and walked away from Fast and Furious. It sounds unthinkable today, but there was a moment when Vin Diesel wasn't part of the Fast and Furious franchise at all. Imagine that. Dominic Toretto, the face of one of the biggest movie series in history, actually walked away from it after the first film. And he didn't just quietly step aside, he turned down millions of dollars in the process. Here's the story. In 2001, The Fast and the Furious hit theaters. It was an unexpected hit. A sleek mix of car culture, undercover cops, and adrenaline-pumping stunts. Audiences fell in love with Diesel's portrayal of Dominic Toretto, the brooding, street-racing outlaw with a code of honor built around family. It was gritty, emotional, and completely different from the action heroes of the time. Diesel was a breakout star, and Universal Pictures was ready to cash in with a sequel. But when they came to Diesel with Too Fast, Too Furious, he didn't like the direction. He thought the script was shallow, too cartoonish, and didn't respect the characters. The studio offered him a paycheck, rumors say around $20 million, but he said no. Let that sink in. A guy who had been broke and sleeping on couches just a few years earlier turned down a fortune because he believed the story wasn't right. Instead, Diesel focused on his passion project, The Chronicles of Riddick. He believed that character, born out of Pitch Black, could become a sci-fi franchise. While Too Fast, Too Furious went ahead without him, starring Paul Walker and Tyrese Gibson, Diesel poured his energy into building Riddick's world. Financially, this was risky. The Chronicles of Riddick, 2004, had a massive budget but underperformed at the box office. Meanwhile, Too Fast, Too Furious did well financially, proving the franchise had legs even without Diesel. For a moment, it looked like Diesel had made a career-ending mistake. But this is where things get interesting. Diesel's absence actually created anticipation for his return. Fans missed him. They wanted Dom back, and when he made a surprise cameo at the end of The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, 2006, audiences went crazy. That single cameo set the stage for Diesel to return not just as an actor, but as a producer, helping steer the franchise into the billion-dollar juggernaut it is today. In hindsight, Diesel's decision to walk away showed two things: his stubborn integrity and his long-term vision. He wasn't just an actor for hire. He wanted control, respect, and creative input. He was willing to gamble millions for that. And in the end, the gamble paid off. By the time Fast and Furious, 2009, reunited him with Paul Walker, The series had transformed into a global powerhouse, and Diesel had positioned himself not just as its star, but as its driving, creative force. This fact reveals something essential about Vin Diesel. He doesn't compromise on what he believes in. He's willing to take the hard road if it means staying true to himself. In an industry where many actors chase paychecks, Diesel chased legacy. That's rare, and it's why, when he delivers one of those gravelly one-liners about loyalty or family, audiences believe him, because off-screen, he lives it. Number 5. He has a twin brother you've probably never seen here, as a fact that blows people's minds every time. Vin Diesel has a twin brother. Yes, you read that right. His fraternal twin's name is Paul Vincent, and unlike Vin, Paul has mostly lived outside the spotlight. The two may share DNA, but their lives couldn't look more different on the surface. Paul Vincent has occasionally worked behind the scenes in Hollywood as a sound editor, but he doesn't pursue acting or the high-profile lifestyle. He's quiet, private, and rarely photographed. In fact, most fans had no idea Vin Diesel even had a twin until he revealed it himself in social media posts years into his career. So why is this such a fascinating fact? Because it highlights how fame often creates alternate realities, even for people born at the same time. One twin becomes a global superstar, plastered across billboards, commanding box offices, and inspiring memes about family. The other lives quietly, far from the spotlight. It's a reminder that destiny isn't just about genetics, it's about choices, opportunities, and personality. Diesel has spoken warmly about his brother, emphasizing that family, both biological and chosen, is the cornerstone of his life. And when you think about it, it makes sense. The Fast and Furious franchise's obsession with family isn't just a Hollywood gimmick for him, it's personal. Having a twin brother, along with his other siblings, grounded him in a household where family ties mattered deeply. There's also a subtle poetry in the fact that Diesel lost his close friend and co-star Paul Walker in 2013. Fans often point out how surreal it is that his real-life twin is also named Paul. Diesel himself has said the bond with Walker went beyond friendship. It felt like brotherhood. In some ways, life gave him two Pauls, one by blood, one by fate. And while Paul Vincent doesn't seek fame, his existence reminds us that behind every superstar is a family that helped shape them. Diesel's sense of loyalty, his obsession with brotherhood, and his constant focus on family values aren't just movie lines. They're rooted in his real life, his real twin, and the people he grew up with. For fans, discovering that Vin Diesel has a twin is like uncovering a hidden subplot in the movie of his life. It adds depth, mystery, and a sense that even off-screen, Diesel's world is larger than life. 4. He's a secretly talented singer who once pursued music. When you think of Vin Diesel, the first image that comes to mind is usually him behind the wheel of a muscle car, not standing in front of a microphone. But here's one of the most surprising facts about him. Vin Diesel can sing, and not just karaoke-level singing. He has a genuinely soulful, deep voice that has shocked fans whenever he's shown it. Back in the 80s and early 90s, Diesel wasn't only hustling as an actor and bouncer. He also flirted with the idea of becoming a musician. Growing up in New York, he was surrounded by hip-hop culture, house music, and a melting pot of sounds. He absorbed it all. Friends recall that he used to freestyle rap and even recorded a few demo tracks. But music was always a side passion, overshadowed by his relentless drive toward acting. Fast forward to years later, when Diesel had already become a household name. Out of nowhere, clips began to surface of him singing. In one viral video, he covered Rihanna's "Stay," pouring his gravelly, emotional voice into the song. People couldn't believe it. The tough guy actor who played Riddick and Dom Toretto was suddenly bearing his soul through music. And it wasn't a joke, he was good. In 2020, he surprised fans again by releasing an official single called "Feel Like I Do," produced by Kygo, the Norwegian DJ known for tropical house hits. The track was soft, melodic, and romantic, a far cry from the hard-hitting action roles that defined his career. Fans didn't know what to make of it at first, but the song gained traction, especially because of the novelty factor. Vin Diesel crooning over a club beat? It sounded like an alternate universe. But here's the deeper truth. Diesel has always been a performer at heart. Acting, singing, producing, they're all expressions of storytelling. Music just happens to be one more outlet. And while it may not have made him a chart-topping artist, it shows that he's more complex than the archetype Hollywood assigned him. He's not just a bald-headed action star, he's a guy who loves to express himself, even if it means stepping out of his comfort zone. It's also very American in spirit. Reinvention, experimentation, refusing to be boxed in, these are themes that run through Diesel's life. His willingness to put himself out there, to risk being laughed at for singing, reflects the same bravery that pushed him to make indie films when Hollywood wouldn't cast him. Whether it's rapping as a teen in New York, belting Rihanna covers, or releasing his own song, Diesel has shown that he's not afraid to try. And, let us be honest, the idea of Dominic Toretto singing a love ballad while polishing his Charger is hilarious and oddly heartwarming. Number 3. His net worth and business mindset made him a Hollywood power player. By now, everyone knows Vin Diesel as the star of Fast and Furious. But what makes him truly remarkable isn't just his acting, it's his business acumen. Diesel isn't just an employee of Hollywood studios. He's a producer, entrepreneur, and brand builder who turned his on-screen success into a personal empire worth hundreds of millions. As of recent estimates, Vin Diesel's net worth sits somewhere between $220 to $250 million. That puts him among the highest-paid actors in the world. But here's the kicker. He didn't get there by luck. He got there by understanding the power of ownership. Remember when he walked away from Too Fast, Too Furious? That decision, risky as it was, eventually gave him leverage. When he returned to the franchise, he didn't just sign on as an actor. He demanded and received a producer credit. That gave him not only more money up front, but also a cut of the back-end profits. And when you're talking about a franchise that regularly makes over $1 billion worldwide, back-end profits are where the real money is. Diesel also established his own production company, One Race Films, through which many of his projects are funneled. That means he has creative and financial control, shaping the kinds of stories he tells and ensuring that his name is tied to the success. He's not waiting for Hollywood to hand him opportunities. He's creating them. Take the Riddick franchise, for example. After the Chronicles of Riddick underperformed, most studios would have buried the character. Diesel, however, believed in Riddick's potential. He mortgaged his own house to secure funding for Riddick, 2013. That's right, despite being a multimillionaire, he put his personal property on the line because he believed in the story. And it paid off. The movie turned a solid profit and proved that Diesel wasn't just an actor, but a businessman willing to risk for reward. His financial success also ties directly to his international appeal. While some stars only dominate the American market, Diesel's movies are global. Fast and Furious is particularly huge in Asia, Latin America, and Europe. Diesel understood this early on, which is why he leaned into universal themes like loyalty, family, and underdog triumph. These are values that resonate across cultures. By focusing on them, he ensured his films would appeal to billions, not just millions. But what truly cements him as a power player is how he controls his image. Diesel has carefully built his brand around being the voice of loyalty, family, and integrity. Every social media post, every interview, reinforces that identity. This makes him not just an actor, but a symbol. And symbols are incredibly valuable in Hollywood. From business deals to merchandising to gaming crossovers, Diesel has leveraged his name beyond movies. Think of his involvement in Guardians of the Galaxy. He voices Groot, a character that only says one line, "I am Groot." Yet Diesel recorded that line thousands of times in multiple languages, ensuring the voice was distinctly his. The result? A massive paycheck and a role that tied him to another billion-dollar franchise. That's smart business. The lesson here is clear. Vin Diesel isn't just along for the ride. He's driving the car. He knows how Hollywood works, and he's played the game with precision. The kid who once slept on couches is now one of the richest actors alive. Not because he was handed success, but because he demanded ownership. Thucker 2. His bond with Paul Walker was real, raw, and changed him forever. There are Hollywood friendships, and then there are Hollywood brotherhoods. The bond between Vin Diesel and Paul Walker was the latter. It wasn't manufactured for press junkets. It wasn't a studio PR stunt. It was real. From the moment they met filming The Fast and the Furious in 2001, the two connected in a way that mirrored their on-screen relationship. Brothers who found each other through cars, loyalty, and family. Walker was the laid-back California surfer with a heart of gold. Diesel was the intense New Yorker with a deep sense of loyalty. On paper, they couldn't have been more different. But on set, the chemistry was undeniable. Diesel has repeatedly said that Walker wasn't just a co-star, he was family. Their bond extended far beyond the cameras. They spent time together off-set. Their kids played together, and Walker even became Uncle Paul to Diesel's children. When Paul Walker tragically died in a car accident in 2013, it shattered Diesel. At the premiere of Furious 7, Diesel openly wept, calling Walker his brother and saying the film was for Paul. He even named his daughter Pauline in honor of him. And if you watch Furious 7, especially the final scene where Dom and Brian drive off in separate directions, you know it wasn't just acting. It was a farewell from Diesel himself. But here's what makes this fact powerful. Walker's death didn't just devastate Diesel personally. It reshaped how he approached life and the franchise. Diesel doubled down on his themes of family, loyalty, and legacy. Every interview, every press event, every film since has carried the weight of honoring Walker. He even pushed to ensure that Walker's brothers, Caleb and Cody, were part of completing Furious 7, giving it authenticity. This bond is also a reminder that behind the explosions and stunts are real people, real emotions, and real grief. Diesel turned that grief into fuel, ensuring that the world would never forget Paul Walker. And in doing so, he reminded audiences that the heart of Fast and Furious isn't cars or heists. It's family. For fans, that authenticity is why Diesel resonates. He's not pretending when he says family. He lived it, he lost it, and he honors it. In a world where Hollywood often feels fake, Diesel's bond with Paul Walker is as real as it gets. 1. He's more than an action. Star Vin Diesel as a global icon of family and legacy. If you strip away the cars, the stunts, the muscles, and the fame, what's left at the core of Vin Diesel? It's simple. Family, loyalty, and legacy. That's the #1 fact about him. Not a statistic, not a paycheck, not even a movie credit, but the philosophy he lives by. Diesel has built his career on characters who stand for something larger than themselves. Dominic Toretto isn't just a street racer. He's a leader who protects his family at all costs. Riddick isn't just a survivor. He's a warrior who thrives against impossible odds. Even Groot, a character with only 3 words, became a symbol of sacrifice and love because Diesel infused him with heart. Off-screen, Diesel practices what he preaches. He's a devoted father to his 3 children, often sharing heartfelt moments with them on social media. He's fiercely loyal to his castmates, treating them like extended family. And he uses his platform to push messages of unity, loyalty, and brotherhood. While other actors lean on branding consultants, Diesel's brand is his truth. But here's the bigger picture. Vin Diesel has become a cultural symbol. Around the world, his movies are watched by billions. His gravelly voice, his one-liners about family, and his larger-than-life persona have turned him into more than an actor. He's a myth. And myths matter. They inspire people. They give them something to hold on to. Consider this. For many fans, especially those from working-class or immigrant backgrounds, Diesel represents possibility. He wasn't born into privilege. He didn't fit Hollywood's mold. He created his own path, his own identity, his own success. He's living proof that you can be different, you can be doubted, and you can still win. That's why audiences cheer for him. It's not just Dom Toretto they believe in. It's Vin Diesel himself. And what will his legacy be? Sure, box office records will fade, franchises will end, and Hollywood will move on. But the values Diesel represents, family, loyalty, resilience, those will stick. In a way, his life has mirrored the very stories he tells. The underdog who refused to quit, the brother who kept his promise, the father who put family first. That's what makes him not just an action star, but an icon. Vin Diesel's story is proof that reality can be just as gripping as fiction. From a New York kid sneaking into theaters, to a bouncer who reinvented himself, to a broke dreamer making indie films, to the face of billion-dollar franchises, his life has been one long, high-octane ride. Along the way, he's stayed true to what matters most: loyalty, family, and never giving up. And that's why he isn't just another Hollywood star. He's a symbol, a reminder that no matter where you start, no matter how many times you're told no, if you stay loyal, if you stay true, if you fight for your family and your vision, you can build a legacy that outlives you. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive into the lives of icons and legends. And let us know in the comments, which Vin Diesel fact surprised you the most? Was it his gaming obsession, his hidden music career, or his bond with Paul Walker? We'd love to hear your thoughts.